Guys, today we will be ranking who are the most promotable fighters in the UFC. And by promotable fighters, I mean people that are going to get new fans, they're going to get old fans to come back and buy pay-per-views, they're going to open new markets all around the world, they're funny, they give the UFC views, and they're just really promotable. Like, they sell merch, they make quotes and stuff. They make good fights to get more people interested, and they just keep people interested and coming back to the UFC, tuning into new fights, and all the stuff like that. So these guys are going to be the UFC's money makers, the cash cows for the future. I'm going to be ranking them from S tier, who are the most promotable guys in my opinion, all the way down to D, who are guys who are still kind of promotable, but obviously not as big names, not as big stars. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to put Israel Adesanya. He is going in the bottom of S tier. Israel Adesanya. A lot of young people like him, and teenagers. I think he's kind of like the target audience. Personally, I think he's really cringe, but a lot of people seem to like him. So fair enough. And he has got a good style of fighting. The guy's really talented. He's the middleweight champion for a reason. And this guy's got a really big social media presence too. He has a YouTube channel. He has a big Instagram following, and he's good. He's not good on the media, but he gives media quotes. He's always coming up in MMA news channels, stuff like that. And he has a lot of mega fights he could do. So the UFC have a lot to do with him at this point. I guess he could go up to light heavyweight. There's some fights for him there. And this guy, he just opens up a big brand of audience. He's got he likes anime, so he might bring in some anime fans and stuff like that. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't watch that kind of stuff. But so he's there. He's promotable. He's one of the stars. He's one of the biggest stars right now. He'll guarantee you 600k pay-per-view buys, just because of his fan base. Moving on, we have Colby Covington. He's going at the top of the A tier. Colby's obviously really entertaining. He's funny. His fights are not that entertaining, to be honest. Obviously, some of them are complete wars, but if he's dominating a fight, it's less entertaining than if the fight's more even, like the Usman fights, because he just kind of wet blankets his opponents. He doesn't even really look for finishes. He doesn't even try and go for subs. So that does hinder him a bit. But other than that, obviously, he's basically got a persona. He's got this character that he puts on in the UFC. He gets loads of clips. He does really well on socials. A lot of people like him and a lot of people hate him, but either way, they're creating revenue for the UFC, because a lot of people will tune in to watch this guy win and say funny stuff, and a lot of people will tune in to see this guy basically get knocked out, get submitted and stuff like that, and then laugh at him for it. So either way, he's making the UFC money. He's bringing people in. If you put this guy in a co-main, it will definitely boost the pay-per-view sales. So that's why he's there. The only reason I'm not putting him in S tier is because he doesn't get a lot of finishes and a lot of highlight reel moments in fights, which would literally make him the UFC's biggest star, because his style just doesn't really fit that kind of thing. Moving on, we have John Jones. I'm going to put him in S tier here. John Jones is probably the biggest draw in the UFC right now who's still active, maybe. He has a huge American fan base. He has a lot of European fans as well. A lot of people don't like him for out of the ring stuff, but whether you like him or not, he's a really big draw. His fight with Cyril Gane did really well. It was one of the best pay-per-views in a long time for the UFC 285. And obviously his heavyweight debut was really, really anticipated. And then they were talking about a fight with Stipe. That would have done big numbers. But honestly, Jones versus Pavlovich is the bigger fight, in my opinion. I think that actually is more hype, because everyone knows that fight's a lot more closer. If Jones fought Stipe, he'd easily win. There's no question, because Stipe's finished. He's 40. He's 41, I'm pretty sure. He just needs to retire. But so Jones would win that fight so easily. No one really cares. We all know what would happen. But the Pavlovich fight is much more fun. It's way more risky for Jones. And if he actually has the guts, he'd take that fight instead. But that would be a really big fight as well, I'm sure. Maybe not as big as the Stipe fight, but it means that if Pavlovich won, he'd become a superstar. So it's kind of like a win-win. Jones beats Pavlovich and he looks really good, because no one can say he fought a 42-year-old or 41-year-old or whatever. But then if Pavlovich wins, he becomes a superstar, because he's the only guy to knock out Jones. Moving on, we've got Jack Della Maddalena. I'm putting him in B. The reason being, although this guy's not amazing on the mic, and he doesn't really have a huge social media presence at the moment, he's a rising star. And also, he's basically the face of, he will be the future face, sorry, of Australian MMA. You know, we have obviously, or Australasia MMA, because obviously we have like Volk and that and Robert Whittaker, but this guy's, you know, he's the next generation of fighter, and I really think he'll take them. You know, he's going to be their poster boy in Australia and New Zealand, and he'll take them to places. He's going to become much more promotable. I think this guy's going to win his next few fights, and yeah, I will be watching. He's really fun to watch. That could, you know, make him rise up to A tier in the future when he gets more fans. He just needs more highlight reel knockouts. You know, he's the kind of guy that gets big finishes. That will, you know, make him skyrocket in popularity, because a lot of people don't know who he is yet, to be honest, but most MMA fans will know who he is because of his recent win over Randy Brown as well. Moving on, we've got Leon Edwards. I'm going to put him at the bottom of A. Or maybe the middle. Obviously, he wasn't that big of a draw until he knocked out Usman, and that basically, I mean, it's one of the most important knockouts of all time in the fact that he was losing, then he won, and he's got the real life Rocky story. It made him really marketable, made him really boost in popularity, skyrocket. Likeable guy, he's really likeable, and obviously he's really good. Okay. And he has one of the biggest highlight moments in UFC history. So, you know, he's definitely got to be up there in the list. And he's not bad on the mic, but he doesn't really say as much that is going to get him headlines, such as Kobe or maybe Jones. And, you know, he's quite respectful for the most part. But, you know, he still has his moments. He's got good social media. He's quite a big star. And he just needs to win a few more fights. If he gets more finishes, I think he'll skyrocket. He can be the UFC's biggest star right now. Well, maybe except Jones. I think he could overtake Israel because he's way less cringe and probably more likable for a lot of people. He just needs to get more knockouts. But yeah, so and also he's also from the UK. So he's the second UK champ ever. So that in itself, he's got a big market. All the UK people want him to win. Moving on, Brandon Moreno, A tier. I mean, he's kind of annoying, let's be honest, guys. Like, he's just kind of annoying. He seems really nice, but he's got a really annoying voice. And he is kind of the face of Mexican MMA for the time being. But the problem is he's in flyweight, so that immediately limits just how popular he can be, because for some reason no one cares about flyweights. They just don't like, if there's a heavyweight fight, like, it just seems that people basically nearly almost the higher weight class you go. I mean, there's kind of like a sweet spot. It's like lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, and then they kind of skip light heavyweight, and then heavyweight is also where a lot of stars can be born. But yeah, just no one seems to be that bothered about flyweights right now, or ever really. Obviously, except a few like Cejudo and Mighty Mouse. But yeah, he's pretty marketable. He's got a big Mexican fan base, and he gets a lot of memes made about him because of the stuff he says and like the photos he takes with people who are like way bigger than him and stuff. And he's like obsessed with Lego and stuff like that. Anyway, moving on, Max Holloway. We'll put him in A. We'll move Brandon up. Max Holloway, he's a fairly big draw. You know, he's a fight night main event, definitely. He has a lot of fans. He's a nice guy. He's likable. He has a big fan base. The Holloway fan base is really big. They always support him. And he's got fun fights. He's got a few viral moments. I mean, we all remember the one against Calvin Kattar, where he dodged like a million punches and said he's the best boxer in the UFC. So, you know, he's out there. Every MMA fan, you know, casual or not, they know who this guy is. I think a lot of people who don't really watch MMA will probably recognize him or like have seen that clip of him. So he's got a big presence, fairly big on socials. Trash talk ain't that good, and he's quite respectful generally, so he doesn't really make headlines in that way. He's quite quiet at the press conferences, and when he does, it feels a bit forced when he does trash talk. But other than that, he's pretty promotable. Moving on with Charles Oliveira. Am I being delusional for saying he's an S tier? I don't think so. Charles is one of the most liked people in the UFC. He's good, and I think it's his story that a lot of people resonate with. He's obviously, you know, he was called like the quitter, stuff like that, and he's been an underdog basically his entire life and his entire career. He's like one of the most, considering he has a lot of losses. I think he has like 8 losses. He's you know, he went on a big run in lightweight, so you know, fair play to him. He was on like an 11 fight win streak, I think, or something like that. So 12 fight win streak. So yeah, he's a really big star. I know he's made a lot of money. He's got a really big house now. He's got a lot of followers on social media. He gets a lot of likes. He does really well. This guy, he does really well on like clips as well. And considering he can't speak English, he's undoubtedly the biggest star that doesn't speak English. If Charles Oliveira learned English, it's a bit of a shame now because his career is nearly over. He isn't going to have many more fights. But if he could have spoke English, he undoubtedly could have been the biggest UFC star. But that kind of blocked how much he could do. Obviously, I imagine he's huge in Brazil. And to be fair, his translator is really good. He translates exactly what he says, so that helps him stay popular. But if he spoke English, he probably could have been the biggest UFC star ever. Maybe. Maybe not ever. We're saving one. You guys probably know who it is. Moving on. Bo Nickel. Obviously, Bo Nickel, he's going to get a lot of them wrestler guys interested in MMA because that's basically what he is. This guy's a wrestler that realised he could just destroy a load of people in MMA who didn't know how to grapple, especially in middleweight because it's talentless division. But so obviously he's going to bring them guys in. The only problem is some fans don't really like him because he kind of nutshotted Jamie Pickett and took him down, and then people were saying that first of all he wouldn't have won it if he didn't nutshot him. Guys, let's be honest, he would have beaten Jamie Pickett anyway. Should that fight have been broken up? Yeah, they should have stopped that and made them resume the fight after he recovered. But this guy was going to beat Jamie Pickett anyway, guys, let's be honest. And some fans just don't like him because of that, and they also don't like, they say he got rushed and they put him on unfair places in the pay-per-view, so some people dislike him. Like, he doesn't have any control over that, okay? Be mad at Dana White. Like, he was replacing some bigger stars, they were saying, and then people were getting frustrated, but, that's got nothing to do with him, so don't get people who are bothered. If this guy wins, he maybe could be champion. We just haven't seen enough of him yet. We need to see what his striking's like first. But he's definitely a contender for sure. He could definitely in the future be A tier. And if he keeps on dominating, he's going to get really popular. He could be like the next American Khabib, Moving on, we've got Yair Rodriguez. I'm going to move these guys down. Della there. Yair there. So Yair is the interim champ. So he's technically a champ. And he's Mexican. And in my opinion, he's more fun to watch. And he's more interesting than Brandon Moreno. And he seems like a really nice dude as well. But he hasn't got the biggest fan base yet. Obviously, everyone knows who he is, but because he's not the real champion, because Volk's that champ, he just that kind of limits how popular he can be right now. But he's fighting Volk. He could win that fight. I definitely think it's Volk's toughest challenge at featherweight yet, so he's definitely got a good chance in that. I'm not ruling him out at all. He could get a finish or something like that. But Yair, likable guy, Mexican. He could become another Mexican champ. Then we'd have 3 proper champs, because obviously he's only the interim and I wouldn't really count that, but because it's kind of like a fake belt. But so that's why he's there, and in the future he could definitely be an A tier. Moving on, we have Volk. Volk's there, okay. Actually, he might be. No, we're swapping. I don't care. Volk has earned. Actually, no, we're not. I've just realised. Volk's going in next year, okay? He's at the bottom of S. Volk, he got so much respect and so many new fans from that Islam fight. A lot of people said he was a bit of a decisionator, but, like it or not, this guy's always in fun fights. His fight against Korean Zombie was good. He got a finish there. The Holloway fights, I feel like a lot of people didn't like him just because he was beating Holloway, which is kind of stupid if you ask me, because Holloway has dedicated fans. But at this point in his career, after exposing Holloway, he basically destroyed him 3 times. Well, not 3 times, but that final fight, he literally won every round. So he kind of made it clear that he is the deserving champ. And from then on, their conversations have kind of been ended completely. But he's a big star. The Islam fight got him huge fans. He blew up on, obviously he was already really popular, but he just skyrocketed him because a lot of people were saying, whoa, he got robbed. And damn, considering how much smaller he is than Islam, he did super well. And he did. It's all very true. Really likable. His YouTube channel is great. I actually watch it myself. I really enjoy his cooking stuff. I love seeing all what he's doing there. And I watch some of his fight camps too. They're quite interesting to see what he's getting up to in Australia. And he's big for the Australian market. He is the biggest Australian fighter right now. I'm sure when he retires, Jack Della Maddalena will probably take over. But yeah, he's really likable. I'm sure the Australians love him. He's just like your typical Aussie guy. He's really humble. He's pretty funny. Pretty funny, respectful. He doesn't get a lot of finishes, but I feel like because of like the quality of him, he gets a lot of recognition in his fights anyway. Because like his scrambles are insane, and he's just really high level. So all the stuff like that, and he obviously is in the top 5 GOATs probably right now. A lot of people are putting him in that conversation, so that just makes him really remarkable in itself. Moving on, we have the biggest star, the biggest draw, just the most promotable fighter of all time, and maybe ever, we never know, in the UFC. It's Conor McGregor. Okay, Conor McGregor is the biggest draw in the UFC. This guy will do a million pay-per-view buys, no matter really who he fights. This guy could fight Chris Moutinho, and he'd probably do a million pay-per-view buys. And am I surprised? No, because this guy recently he has kind of fallen off a bit on the mic, but back in the day, on the mic, McGregor was literally, he was the mic GOAT. This guy, he had such funny, witty trash talk. He had people all over the world loving him. He was the biggest person in Ireland. At one point he was probably the most famous Irish person in the world. A lot of Americans like him because a lot of Americans have Irish heritage, so they like that as well. He gets amazing knockouts. He's got amazing highlight finishes. He stays in the media, even though he hasn't fought in like 2 years now. He just is always in the media, whether it's paparazzi photos, him on his yacht at the Grand Prix recently, or him saying stupid stuff on Twitter when he's drunk or stuff like that, drunk. He's always there. He will be the biggest UFC star until he retires, and he probably will be for unless some like absolute superstar comes along, which I can't really see happening, to be honest. He will remain that way. And, this guy had some super fights. And I'm pretty sure if he fought Khabib in a rematch, obviously I know that isn't going to happen, but if it did happen, that would be the biggest fight of all time. It could maybe do 2 million pay-per-view buys if it was marketed correctly. But yeah, so Conor McGregor is there. He basically is the UFC's cash cow. He made them so much money. He actually skyrocketed the business itself. He basically made the UFC what it is today, how it's very mainstream. He made it mainstream. I definitely think a lot of people became MMA fans because of Conor McGregor, and that is something that no one else could really do. All this time, people have tried and they failed, and he just did it effortlessly. So fair play to him, and that's why he's there. Moving on, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, he's beat it. This guy is. I don't really know if he has many fans. He just seems to make people hate him no matter what he does. He just always does the wrong things, and his trash talk's bad. Considering he's won so many fights as champion and stuff, and he's got a lot of finishes, his socials don't do that well. His YouTube channel gets literally no views. It's so funny. I think even I might get more views right now than him. But so Aljamain Sterling's there. Considering he's a champion, he's underperforming severely. He thinks he's a much bigger star than he is. And if he wants to get into A tier, have a super fight, okay? I know you're fighting Sean O'Malley, but after that, fight Volk. That is a fight that will actually get you fans, especially if you win it. Actually, people might hate him for winning against Volk, but if he wins that fight, somehow he'll get new fans. And he's just, considering he's champion, he's really not marketable. And he seems to be falling out with the UFC over what he's worth, okay? Moving on, we're going to put Nate the Train in D tier. The reason being is that he's not a huge star whatsoever, but I know that UFC fans like him, okay? So, if you're not going to watch a fight night because you don't care about the main event, but you see Nate Landwehr's on it, you might just tune in and watch his fight and then go to bed if you're a European fan, okay? He brings more fans. I'm not saying D tier is someone that isn't marketable. I'm just saying compared to everyone on this list, he's less marketable. And obviously, he's probably going to be retiring soon because he's 34 or 35 in featherweight. But he's, he has the most entertaining fights. He doesn't even care about winning. He'd rather just put on a show. So that's why he's got a lot of fans. He's funny. He's good on the mic. Unfortunately, he probably just isn't going to win a lot of high-level matchups, which just limits how big of a star he can be, and he's probably going to retire soon anyway. But yeah, that's why he's there. D tier is not an insult. To make this list, you're still marketable, but compared to others, that's where you are. Moving on, Khamzat Chimaev. Probably there. You know, Hamzat's one of the biggest draws in the UFC. Maybe. If this guy gets a belt, he will become an S tier immediately. He's got a huge amount of fans, a lot of Russian fans, a lot of American fans, and a lot of just European fans in general. I like him. I'm a fan of him. Really interesting style. He's got insanely aggressive wrestling. He's really dominant. He's got some of the best wrestling we've ever seen. And he's got pretty good striking too, and he's still improving. He just needs to have a fight, you know. That's the only reason he isn't in S tier. If this guy was actually active, he'd definitely be in S tier. He's got a huge social media presence, loads of followers on Instagram. I think he has over 5 million. And he has a really good YouTube channel that does really well. So that'll make him a bit of money as well. Probably why he isn't fighting. No, jokes aside though, big fighter, just needs to fight more. If he wins a belt, he'll become an S tier fighter immediately. Just stay active as well. Moving on, Sean O'Malley. I mean, we've got to put him there. This guy's potential is massive. If this guy wins, you know, the reason why he's above Aljamain is because he's a much bigger star than Aljamain, okay? If he wins against Aljamain Sterling, like if he highlight reel knocks him out, he could actually become S tier. He could just jump ship and he'll be the biggest bantamweight ever, really. You know, good on the mic. He's funny. He's big on TikTok. He's big on YouTube, fairly big on YouTube. And he just makes iconic moments. A lot of celebrities like him. He seems to be a gateway for like celebrities getting in and liking MMA. Obviously, like kind of like Drake and like a lot of basketballers and stuff like that. So so he seems to be a gateway for them guys, and then they bring their fan base with them when they like comment like "Let's go Sugar Sean" and stuff like that. And then people are like, "Who are Sugar Sean? I got to check him out." And then they say, "I'm like, oh my god, this guy's cool. He just knocked someone out, and now he's pretending to play with a basketball." So it's stuff like that. And if he knocks Aljamain Sterling out, he'll be S tier. Moving on, Islam Makhachev. I don't know. I'm debating A or S, but this guy's basically, I don't know. I feel like he could be both, but we'll just leave him at the top of S tier for now. So he's either like low S or a very, very high A. So we'll just put him there for now. But basically, when Khabib retired, Khabib's very dedicated fan base became Islam fans because, I mean, he basically fights just like Khabib. He's actually probably better than Khabib, I'd say. He's got better striking, and they basically just became Islam fans because he's like Khabib's protege. You know, he's the guy that he's trained, and Khabib's always been saying that like Islam's better than him. He's actually the better fighter and stuff like that. And to be honest, this guy's promotable. He's quite funny. You know, he's got like kind of like a funny sense of humor. He's quite awkward as well, which just makes him even more funny. He has a lot of funny clips. He gets somewhere with Daniel Cormier. They do interviews. I think he needs to do more of them. They make him really promotable. He comes off quite funny in them and pretty likable guy. And a lot of people just don't like him because he beat Volk and he beat Charles. I mean, I get that, but it's not his fault. He's only beating the guys he's getting matched up against, and he's really good. So you know, he's S tier, but he's also A tier at the same time. You know, this he just needs to win a few fights, and you know, he may as well move up to welterweight. We'll get a few more big fights while we're at it. Next fighter, C tier, Sergey Pavlovich. Big fighter, popular. A lot of people like him. I like him. Very interesting fighting style. Just needs to win a few more fights. He's a little bit off the radar for a few fans. I don't think many people who aren't like MMA fans would know who this guy is, compared to like Ngannou, who's very similar to him in like the fighting style. Obviously, he's more crisp and stuff, but the power's there. The only reason people don't know who he is probably just because he doesn't speak English. He should probably learn English. You know, he may as well. He's going to have a long career ahead of him. He's a heavyweight and he's only like 31. So, you know, he's going to be there for a long time. Try and learn English, I say. Get more fans. He's big in Russia. He gets a lot of support on his page, I see. Got a few followers. And from here, it's only up. Just needs to get a few more knockouts. And, he's going to be breaking the record soon. Moving on. Paddy the Baddy. He's going to B. Paddy the Baddy is kind of a star. At one point, I would have put him in A and been like, oh, he could even be S tier. You never know. But after that Jared Gordon fight, the hype ended, guys, I'm going to be honest. First of all, it proved that he's not high level. I never really thought he was going to be a top 10 contender. I thought he'd lose to anyone in the top 15 except Dan Hooker maybe and Tony Ferguson. But yeah, this guy after that Jared Gordon fight, a lot of people stopped supporting him. They said, "Bro, why are you bragging? You know, you didn't even win that fight." I agree, he didn't win that fight. I think he lost it, but you know, he shouldn't have bragged. They are correct. That isn't going to help his popularity. So he has become much less of a star, and also the fact that we now know that this guy doesn't beat the top 15 guys, so he basically can never be champion. That also limits how big of a star he can be. So this guy, he's just going to have to crush crowns for the rest of his UFC career, and that's as much as they can do with him. But I reckon they should give him to a top 15 opponent, and he can prove whether he's a good fighter or not. But anyway, that's the entire list, guys. Obviously, there are a lot more fighters that I just haven't been able to fit in here just due to time and stuff like that. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, comment down below what you think of this tier list, and who you think I've missed, and you know, if you'd rearrange people on this list and stuff, because obviously, you know, it's all opinion. But thank you guys for watching. I've been MMA Tiers, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.